2, 1. Hey everybody. Hey everybody. We have an amazing special guest today. I'm so thankful for her to do this. I'm like an instant huge fan of Maebe. Maybe a girl. I mean, let me read some of your. I'll read a little bit of your bio, and then maybe you could tell us about you. She came to prominence as the first drag queen ever elected to public office in the United States. So you're like living history. You're living history, basically. After being elected to the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council in Los Angeles in 2019, and now you're and here you are. You were so nice to come on and do this. Thank you so much for doing this. Maybe a girl. Thank you for doing this. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, I was really excited to talk to you and for you to do this. I mean,
Me too.
so I saw you before. I know I've seen interviews with you before, but I was just amazed because, like, you know, a lot of the media, the content I watch is kind of people repeating these, you know, kind of awful talking points. And you went on this show, a guy who we kind of give a hard time on this channel, Tim Pool, and without breaking a sweat, kind of just disproved all this stuff. I wanted to ask you first, he usually has like backup on his show to help him out. Who was the other drag queen that was on? Can you tell us about them a little bit?
Yeah, so the other drag queen, her name is Kitty Demure, and she is a conservative drag queen, which is a bit of an oxymoron. I think there's only about 3 or 4 of them that exist, but she was the other person on the show. And they let me know ahead of time. They said, you know, we're going to bring on Kitty. They were trying to get another non-conservative drag queen on, so it didn't seem like it was 2-on-1. But I felt totally comfortable, you know, punching back at both of them. So, but Kitty, interestingly, she doesn't live very far from where I live. I think she lives over, I think in the Inland Empire, so a little bit east of LA. She flew out of the airport that's, you know, right next to me. And she was nice. I mean, everybody was nice. You know, I appreciated that everybody was cordial. There was enough respect. And those were some of my conditions going on the show. I wanted to be assured of, first of all, my safety, considering, you know, big right-wing figure. They taped the show it's right on the border of Maryland and West Virginia. It's in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, they were nice. They were respectful. And, you know, that was the point. I wanted to go and have a conversation. And I did have some reservations about going on. I think a big one being I didn't want to platform this dude, but in reality, he has millions of followers. So I wasn't platforming him. He was platforming me. You know, also running for Congress, I wanted to be able to, you know, do a little bit of campaigning and fundraising. But most importantly, the reason I wanted to go on was because I thought, perhaps, just perhaps, one of his millions of followers who has never met or listened to a drag queen or a trans person might actually just have a change of heart and mind. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up receiving a number of messages from people who I wouldn't necessarily say that I politically align with, thanking me for going on the show and for sharing my experience and my point of view. So I thought that was a really great thing to come out of it.
Absolutely. So people see that these goddamn people in the chat, they're asking, who is this? They might have missed the lead up. This is Maybe a Girl. Did an amazing debate on the Tim Pool. It's sort of his like secondary channel. I think it's called The Culture War. Everybody go watch that debate. It's great. And yeah, I wanted to ask you, this is one of the, you know, if anybody wants to see your issue set, you could go to maybeiagirlforcongress.org/issues. I mean, I support everything you support. I think it's like, we don't need to get too much into that. What I did want to ask you is, when I was watching this, I was like, I've almost never seen this level of debate or what would we call it, like rhetorical confidence or something. And I wanted to ask you about confidence because, you know, as a performer, I think especially the kind of performance you do, you need a kind of you need to build a confidence. Has your like has being a performer, being a drag performer, has that sort of spill over into your just your level of confidence in your everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've I've always been a performer. I did theater in high school. I've always been an artist of sorts. When I discovered drag, I was really excited about it because performing art and performing live, it's such a different experience. It's very fleeting, and a lot of it is about connection and connecting with an audience and people. And not only am I a performer, but I host shows as well. So I'm constantly on the mic, and you have to be able to talk to a group of people, a crowd. And these are skills that actually are very transferable to politics. And so, while it might seem a little uncommon to mix drag and politics, there's again a lot of crossover. And so people do look at me a little funny when I tell them that I'm the first drag queen ever elected to a public office in the United States, but in my mind, it makes perfect sense.
It does make sense. And when I'm watching you, I was watching some of that Adam Schiff debate. It did make sense. I was like, yeah. Why are there not more drag? Why do you think there's not more drag queens in as public officials? What's going on here?
That's a good question. I don't know, because when I was running for my local seat here in LA, I actually didn't know until after I was elected that there had never been a drag performer ever publicly elected to any sort of elected office. So I was kind of surprised myself, because drag performers really put themselves out there. They do a lot of fundraising, a lot of charity work, very community driven in many ways. So it was surprising to me. I actually don't know why we don't see more drag performers in politics. And there are some. I'm not the only one. Marty Good Cummings ran for city council in New York City. Honey Mahogany, who is a trans woman and a drag performer, ran for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. So we're putting ourselves out there. And I think it's just, I think it takes a few people opening up the door and saying, hey, you can do this, for other people to look inside themselves and say, hey, I can do that. One of the things that was really inspiring to me when I was elected in 2019 was I ended up receiving a number of messages from queer youth saying, I have always been interested in drag and I've always been interested in politics, but I didn't know that I could do both until I saw somebody like you do that. And that was really inspiring for me to, make sure that I'm taking my job seriously, and, it inspired me to want to run for higher office.
Heck yeah. Okay, I'm gonna play a little clip from the Tim Pool thing. You might not be able to hear this, maybe, but I'll bring you back on and we'll talk about it here. I'm gonna play this now. Oh my gosh, now the tech stuff is all messed up. God damn it. Sorry. Here we go. Here we go.
Are you familiar with Desmond is Amazing?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts? I'll ask some questions, but I just want to let you open up.
Yeah, I don't know Desmond. I have seen Desmond online. I know that they are a queer youth who wanted to engage in drag, and I think that's perfectly okay. I don't think that Desmond's parents are behind the scenes saying, you have to be a drag performer. We're trying to groom you to be trans. There is actually no benefit to it, because queer people and trans people are overwhelmingly ostracized in the society that we live in, that I don't think that a person who didn't want to engage in that would choose to engage in that knowing the kind of ostracism and criticism and hatred that would come to follow. The things that I've read about this child are disgusting. And that's so much more horrific than this person saying, I want to put on a skirt and a wig and perform.
Okay, maybe. I just played the part where because I was kind of expecting this debate to go about how it did, and he's kind of hitting you with all these kind of talking points that he has, and he brings up this younger drag performer, Desmond is Amazing, is that the name? And yeah. I think he thought this was going to be a gotcha, but you brought up the very obvious point that this is someone who wants to perform, this is someone who's having fun. And I think you were very effective at sort of deflating a lot of these arguments. Do you remember this part? And can you tell us about
I do, yeah. And it's exactly like you said. I mean, the entire thing was structured to be gotcha moments, and I knew that going into the interview. I would have been a fool not to do my research on Tim Pool and how he does his interviews. Admittedly, I don't watch his content, so I had to, watch a few episodes to see how he argues and what he does. And it was pretty apparent that he was going to be doing things like this. But also, I didn't know what exactly he was going to be bringing up, but it was just pretty simple for me to be able to say, okay, well, this is what you're saying, but that's what you're saying is not necessarily how it is. And just trying to explain a different point of view that, people want to call that grooming and indoctrination. That kid performing is having the time of their lives. Like, that's not, you can very much tell that's not forced on that kid. Kids love to perform. I mentioned earlier, I've been a performer since I was a teenager. Not a drag performer, but a stage performer nonetheless. So I don't think there's anything wrong with kids wanting to, experiment in that kind of thing. You wouldn't tell a kid, no, you can't do theater. That's for adults. I think there's this idea that drag is inherently sexual and that it's inherently adult content, which I think is untrue. There is certainly a segment of drag performance that can be sexual, can be a little raunchier, and that is the kind of content that does belong in nightclubs or 21 and up venues. But a lot of it is just having a good time and having fun, queer joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're kind of expanding. I think you made a pretty good point too, where it's like we don't do the same for, what would you call it, like heteronormative culture or whatever, where it's like, oh, there's some performances get raunchy. We don't say, oh, you cannot have any culture anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And that's the thing. It's really easy to pick and choose and cherry pick. And that was really what the entire interview was he just cherry picked all of these things that, again, he thought were going to be gotcha moments. And it's really easy to just turn the mirror around.
Absolutely. Okay, I got a few stupid questions here to ask you. Let's go into the stupid zone a little bit here. I've been to like a handful of drag shows. I think drag shows are really fun. Like I've had fun at every drag show I've ever been to. But I'm curious about this as someone who's a performer. Is there such a thing as bombing for a drag queen? Have you ever seen a drag queen bomb?
Yeah, absolutely. I myself have bombed. Doing stand up, not every time is going to be, what you envision in your head. Also, sometimes it's easy to get stuck in your head because, as I mentioned earlier, when you're doing a drag performance, a lot of it is interactive in the sense that you're trying to elicit a response from the audience. So if it's a really quiet audience, you can quickly get into your head. Am I not being entertaining? Am I not doing this right? Am I not making them laugh? Especially for me, because I do a lot of comedy in my drag. So if it's crickets, that means something to me. So I've bombed. I've definitely seen some other people bomb. There's different ways of bombing in a drag performance. A big one is losing your wig. And it's happened to the best of us. You're in the middle, you do a hair flip a little too quickly, and there she goes. And that's embarrassing. But for me, what I discovered is it's all about the recovery. If you laugh with them, they're gonna laugh too, and it ends up being a good thing. So you can turn it around. It's funny to even just pick the wig back up and try to put it on, but I've seen some people get so stuck in their head when something like that happens, and you end up pitying them, and that's the worst thing that you want as a performer that's doing a live performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think in my head, like, bombing as a stand-up is one thing. The bombing as a drag performer might be even worse. They say like, a bombing as a comedian, it's like the worst feeling. I mean, there's such I feel like it's such a reciprocal energy with a drag performance that if it's not there, I feel like it could be a real letdown.
Totally. Another thing is sometimes the queens will go out there and they'll be a little too overconfident about knowing the lyrics. I myself have been victim to this. I'm like, oh yeah, I know these words. And then turns out you only know the chorus. And then the rest of the time you're just kind of like quickly turning so nobody sees your lips. You're just, just doing a lot of that. And that sucks too. That happens once in a while. So if there's any budding drag performers out there, learn your words.
Learn your words. That's the message of today's program. Learn your words. Even if you're
Learn
just out at a dance party or whatever, if you're gonna mouth the words, learn the words. Come on.
Totally. You know who does that all the time? Oprah. Have you ever seen Oprah? And I feel like she posts these videos herself where she'll be at like a concert, jamming out, whether it be like Beyonce or somebody, and she's singing along, and then it's very clear that she doesn't know the words. And thank God it's not a lip sync competition for her. So
Okay, so this episode is also a call out to Oprah. She's been ducking the show. Oprah, get on the show. We're gonna debate. We're gonna do a Tim Pool style gotcha debate to Oprah. Get on here. Okay, so wow, so that's pretty good. I wanted to know about the bombing thing. I saw okay, here's another stupid question. I saw you on it. I was going through your Instagram. I was Instagram stalking you, and I saw a video where you were talking about snacks. Do you want to name? Are you willing to name any of your favorite snacks today on this program?
snacks.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite snacks. I've been on such a salt kick.
Oof.
Anything salty, I love, but I'm a big cheese person. I feel like cheese with everything. Also ranch with everything. I know ranch is not a snack, but anything can be dipped in ranch and turned into a snack.
Oh,
I'm from the
yeah.
Midwest, mention that.
I love that. Yeah, that's pretty decadent. Dip it in some ranch, dipping stuff in ranch. Okay, you're a Los Angelan. What is it? What's the proper Los Angelan? Angelino?
Angelino.
Okay, so you're an Angelino. Do you have a favorite Los Angeles favorite movie that's about Los Angeles?
No, I don't. I don't. But what's really funny, and I noticed this when I moved out here. So I've been in LA for about a little more than 10 years now. And what I started to notice when I was watching TV is that I started to notice, like, especially commercials, I'd be like, oh, I know where that is. Or, oh, that's not where they're pretending it is. That's right down the street from where I live. Or, oh, that's the Griffith Observatory. So it's really funny seeing the place that you live in all of this, nationally and internationally broadcast television, movies, etc. So that's kind of a weird thing. It feels like living on a set sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get maybe a little bit more into serious stuff if you're willing to go there. As somebody who's kind of representing part of LA here, what do you think? What? Because we hear so much about LA in the media. It's like in California in general. It's a political topic all the time. What do you think are like the most? What are the biggest problems facing LA right now, and how do we deal with them?
I think that the number one issue. Well, actually, as I start to speak, I'm like, well, maybe that's not number one. Maybe that's number one. But I have two big issues, and they're actually very interconnected. The first that I was going to say is homelessness. I think that I would challenge anybody to find anybody that lives in this city who doesn't think that homelessness is one of the most, if not the most, trying issue in this city and in this county. We have. It's kind of the epicenter for homelessness, but in some ways it makes sense. If you were a person experiencing homelessness, it's probably a little bit better in a place like LA than say New York City or, somewhere where it's really cold. But at the same time, that's also a little bit of a myth because more people actually die of exposure in Los Angeles due to hypothermia than they do in New York City. So it does get cold at night. And unfortunately, people experiencing homelessness here, about 5 a day on average are dying. And they just came out with the recent results of the latest homelessness count. There's about 60,000 people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. And for me, though, it is how do we approach this? I think for a lot of people in LA, for some of the more heartless folks, they're more concerned with not wanting to see the poverty. They're more concerned with not wanting to see tents in front of their mansions. And I get it, but also it's extremely shallow. Like, put yourself in that person's shoes and imagine what it's like. And then to have people complaining that you're an eyesore. And then you have the other wing where, you want to approach homelessness with compassion. And people always ask me, well, what's the solution to solving homelessness? And it's really hard to boil it down to an elevator pitch because homelessness is not a monolith. I like to use that expression a lot. Most groups and things and ideas are not monoliths. And so there's not a catch-all solution for solving homelessness. But if I really had to boil it down to just one thing that would make an incredible advancement, it would be more permanent supportive housing and services. And that's frankly what we need. It's criminal that there are more vacant units in LA than there are people experiencing homelessness. And really think about that. The other issue that I was going to say is the cost of living here and the soaring prices of rents. You know, that expression, the rent is too damn high. It is particularly pronounced here in LA. You know, I've lived in the same apartment for 10 years now, primarily because I couldn't afford to move into my neighborhood today. So, but even with that, the cost of my rent has gone up every single year. Wages are stagnant. And so we're kind of at this breaking point where people just simply are struggling to afford staying housed. And so if LA doesn't take drastic measures to make sure that people who are housed stay housed, then we're going to see that homelessness figure increase exponentially. And it's already increasing year to year to year. But unless we get some really strong renters protections, we're going to see that exacerbated.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so people in the chat are asking about the movie stuff. We'll come back to that, but I want to. This is what I want to ask you, because we have models around the world. Like, if I've done little dives into how do other parts of the world deal with things like housing and healthcare and all this, and you do see we do have information, we do have data on kind of what works, right? And there are parts of the world that have done really well on housing, where people are really happy with it, and they've actually done things that seem really interesting and almost ideal. Like, I'm thinking of, people talk about like Austria and stuff like that a lot. So I wanted to ask you, like, let's just like go into dream mode a little bit here. Like, an ideal city would have like something like affordable housing all around the city, right? Like something like that. So it's not like, because this is kind of how homelessness happens, right? If housing prices go up, you see homelessness go up with that. Would you kind of want to do something like that, where it's like, hey, every part there's, it's not like unaffordable to live in certain parts? Would you do something? Yeah, people are saying Red Vienna. Yeah, like something like that, or what do you think? Like, if we're just kind of dreaming about an ideal city, like, what do you think?
Well, I think ideally, I would love to see something like a national rent control. A lot of cities have rent control, but it's super hard to find a rent controlled apartments in Los Angeles and in other cities. I would love to see a national scale rent control movement. Because it's criminal to put people on the streets. I'm a firm believer that housing is a human right. And I've always felt, and that's, part of what I'm campaigning on. I have, a couple of big tenets to my platform. One of them is universal healthcare, one of them is housing for all, and one of them is education for all. My reason for those is because I've always felt that if everybody in this nation was guaranteed healthcare, housing, and education, it would be a better place for everybody. You would see things like crime go down. You would see prosperity go up. It would be good for the economy, and it would be good for humanity. And these are not pipe dreams. These are not fantasies. These are things that we see in other industrialized nations around the world. So when we come from a nation of such incredible wealth, and we can afford to give the Pentagon $1 trillion a year, but then they turn around and say, well, sorry, we don't have any money for healthcare or housing and education. It's bullshit to me. The money is there. So I'm digressing a little bit, but I think a national rent control would be an amazing opportunity, and really creating actual affordable housing. It's so funny to me because what they call affordable housing here in LA is actually still incredibly unaffordable to so many people.
Right.
So creating actually affordable housing, a national rent control, and also vacancy taxes. I would love to see vacancy taxes. I mentioned earlier, there's more vacant units in LA than there are people experiencing homelessness. So there's a lot of small measures that can help to alleviate homelessness when you put them all together. But again, I think it boils down to, we need more permanent supportive housing and services. We have a housing crisis in Los Angeles. And so therefore landlords can jack up the rents to, what they want to make. And they know that there's somebody out there who's going to be able to afford to pay it. The consequence is that you're now pushing somebody out of housing. You're now pushing somebody further away from their community center and increasing the likelihood that they might not be able to get other housing.
Yeah, definitely. I guess also there's the other issue of like the actual like real on the ground politics of this, because I know, yeah, like we kind of know what could be better for the average person for, there to be affordable places to live all around the city, but like it's a bit of a battle, right? I mean, you're battling like real estate and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Is it how tough
Really,
of a battle is this?
The influence that developers have, that realtors have, it's pretty gross to me. And that's why, it's not shocking to see, for instance, my current congressperson, the person who I ran against the last 2 cycles, takes a lot of money from developers and real estate. And you always have to follow the money, and you have to ask, why on earth would a politician who takes money from the real estate industry be inclined to actually want to fight for housing for all policies? So I think a big part of it is getting politicians who are not corrupt elected. And it almost seems like an oxymoron because, there's so much corruption in politics, but I think it's mostly related to money. And so, I would love to see more people elected who are corporate free, who don't have, developers in their pockets lining them with cash. So I think that's a big part of it. Developers, they have too much influence over our politicians. And yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
Okay, I just want to answer real quick because people were going off on the movie thing. I would go Mulholland Drive, Sunset Boulevard, Ed Wood, and then there's The Long Goodbye, which was a Robert Altman movie. It was sort of a goof on the LA detective stuff. People are talking about Michael Mann in here, and yeah, Michael Mann, all his movies are kind of LA. But people were saying Pulp Fiction. I don't know if Pulp Fiction is really an LA movie, but maybe kinda.
Funny you mentioned that movie. I recently saw this meme or something on Twitter or X that said, what's the movie that everybody else has seen that you just have not seen? Pulp Fiction is it for me. I just have not seen Pulp Fiction.
Oh my God. Do you have any interest? You have any interest in watching this?
Yes. Yeah. But it's also like, I feel like now I just want to watch it just to say that I watched it. I don't know if I actually have interest, but not to knock it, but
yeah, I wonder.
But I do Boulevard. Whoever mentioned Sunset Boulevard, love that movie.
Okay, yeah, Sunset Boulevard. Anybody who hasn't seen Sunset Boulevard, go watch it now. Okay, all right. Let's. There's something I want to talk about that you brought up on the Tim Pool thing, which I think is so interesting because it does affect young people, and I don't know. It's kind of something that we just sort of. We have a bunch of assumptions about it in our head that we never really challenge, and it's I guess basically like youth sports. Let's call it. I mean, it's not maybe the most interesting topic, but I think it does tell us something, and it's something to sort of examine. But you kind of made this point, like Tim Pool went off on this thing about how sports is about winning. Sports is about winning and proving who's the best. But I kind of looked into this a little bit about what percentage of high school athletes go on to be professional athletes. And we're talking in like the 5%, 6% at best, maybe. And then you look at college athletes, about 2% of them go on to be pros. So it kind of like you have to kind of ask yourself, why are they doing this? And maybe the healthiest reason. So there's 2 reasons. One would be trying to win the lottery, and the other one would be like a healthy version of it, which is we're having fun, we're making friends, we're learning to be part of a team, and And you kind of made this point, and I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about that. So you were specifically talking about like inclusion, especially for younger people. What's your take on this? Is this kind of view of sports as a ruthless who's the best competition? Is this sort of a little bit of a sign about how we think of like bigger issues, you think?
Yeah, and I think one of the words I used in my Tim Pool interview was American-centric. It's very American-centric to, to declare, I must be the best, I must be the winner, and in order for me to be the winner, there must be a loser. And I think that's a terrible take on how to live life and be a good neighbor. And yeah, sports is more than just about winning. And I feel bad for somebody like Tim Pool who thinks that sports is just about winning, because he just doesn't seem like a sport winner to me. I feel bad for, he must feel really bad about himself. But yeah, I'm not a big sport person in general, but I know that America loves sports, and I think that anybody who wants to be involved in sports should be allowed to. And then you have this group of people who say, well, then make your own team. And I'm so sick of that argument, because separate is rarely, if ever, equal. It just seems like a form of segregation. I think that a lot of people would love to see transgender people segregated from society. And also, I think they're using that as an argument to allow for their transphobia. And additionally, sports was one of the first big topics that was introduced in terms of state legislation against trans people. So the whole anti-trans argument a few years ago began with these sports bills and bathroom bills, and sports bills in particular, because they were able to use trans people as this scapegoat, and to say, oh, well, we shouldn't allow trans women to play sports because it's unfair to cisgender women. And I think that a lot of people spouting this kind of ideology have A, never met a transgender person, B, don't actually realize what happens to your body when you take HRT. So, for trans women who are on HRT, if they were to go and get their blood work done, it's going to look just like a cisgender woman. And there are physical differences that occur when you take HRT. So, yeah, of course, that's why I think almost like weight classes, things like that, how like they do in wrestling, I think that's, a fair option. But also they love to, again, cherry pick, the few trans athletes that are actually doing really well. But they never mention the trans athletes that are losing. They never mention the trans, athletes that are coming in 7th, 8th, 9th place. It's always, well, look, this one person, Leah Thomas, is winning, and it's unfair, and therefore we should ban all trans people from sports. And it's just not fair. That's what is unfair, is excluding a group of people who are already extremely marginalized in our society. Trans people already have enough trouble trying to find housing, trying to find employment, and now they can't even do recreation. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It does kind of seem like they're looking for places where they can kind of attack transgender people, right? Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it, and it goes along with the whole thing of you go on this kind of a debate thing, and they have all these sort of pre-prepared gotcha things, and that was part of the gotcha, this endless thing about transgender people in sports. I was definitely expecting that. The other thing that you guys went into was. And another, I knew this was going to be brought up on the Tim Pool thing, was these examples of books in schools.
Yeah.
He went into a whole thing, and I kind of think of this, in my sort of I don't know, grade school experience, high school experience, was you go into the library, the school library, and none of the spines on these books are cracked. Nobody's going into the library reading books in the first place, but yeah, it seems like another area where they're just kind of looking for something to get upset about.
Yeah, and it was particularly relevant for me because I had just come off of an excessive amount of hate for my involvement with the Glendale Unified School District. So I don't know if you know about this, but back in June, both an elementary school in LA, which is LA Unified School District, and then schools in Glendale, which is the Glendale Unified School District, both are within my congressional district. We're starting to see protests from, they call themselves parents. I don't really know if they are. It's this movement. It's abbreviated as LOKA, LOKA, which is Leave Our Kids Alone. And the big idea behind this was that, there was this big uproar because, well, first of all, just because of LGBTQIA plus inclusion in general, but because they think that the teachers are teaching, kindergartners about explicit sex and about, homo sex and all these things. And that's simply not the case. Even the books that Tim Pool pulled out, I told him right there, I was like, I don't endorse these books. A big part of that is I haven't read those books. I haven't read every gay book that's out there. Sorry. But it's funny. Somebody that I know actually did reach out to me and said, I've read both of those books and they actually are totally age appropriate. And I think that's what's really important, is recognizing what is age appropriate and what's not age appropriate. And unfortunately, a lot of protesters who were protesting LAUSD and GUSD were doing so because just for simple inclusion of LGBTQIA anything, putting up a pride flag, or, the Glendale School District, all they were doing when there was this huge protest where the Proud Boys were there, they were voting to recognize June as Pride Month. Like, so mild, because first of all, it's already recognized on a county level, state level, federal level. So this idea that the Glendale School District, wants to actually do something to make sure that queer people, queer youth, and queer teachers and families feel included, suddenly this is pornography, and it's an argument about teaching kids about sex. And here's the thing, I mentioned this on the Tim Pool show, I support sex ed across all grade levels. But sex ed, sexual education, is going to be a lot different for somebody who's in, say, 4th grade versus somebody who's in 12th grade. And just introducing people to the idea that there are other kinds of people other than what you might see at home with your own family, it's a really good thing, because you're going to stop the bullying. When I was growing up I went to middle school in like the late 90s, and I was in high school in the early 2000s. And I remember how othered I felt and how different I felt and how ostracized I felt. And I wasn't even out of the closet. And, a big part of that was that I didn't learn anything about what it was like to be queer in school. The only thing that I could learn about that kind of things through were, what I saw on TV, which was so limited back then. It was Will and Grace and Queer as Folk at the time. And so, when people are not exposed to different kinds of people and ideas and different cultures and backgrounds, something that is other or different seems wrong and abnormal. And so I think a big part of just LGBTQIA inclusion in schools is just showing that, hey, these people exist and it's okay to be like this. This person might have 2 mommies or 2 daddies. They're not learning about, explicit sexual acts, and it's being misconstrued that they are.
Yeah, I thought one of the examples that Tim Pool, when he was going into this whole, and I totally agree with the point on bullying and all that stuff. That's the real effect of this. To make life as a grade schooler or a high schooler is already kind of hard enough. You know what I mean? To lessen things like bullying and othering people is just purely a good thing. If you can lessen that at all, for God's sake, But one of the things he brought up was this case. I read about this. I can't remember where it was, but there was a teacher who they called the cops on. Do you remember this part of the debate?
Yeah.
Where she had some books. Okay, so here's what actually happened, because I read this whole story. She did like a mini book fair kind of thing, right? Where she was just like, hey, if you guys want to read some books, here's some ideas for books. And she basically laid out a bunch of books that they could pick. And one of them was a book that involved LGBTQ issues. And they called the cops on her. For this. Now, if Tim Pool explained that whole story, it sounds absurd. It sounds like these parents are acting or whoever called the cops are acting totally irrationally. Did you? Because with a debate like that, it feels like it's not totally in good faith when it's stuff like that. But
Yeah.
did you know about that case, and did you what do you think about that kind of thing? I guess
I'd heard about it briefly. I didn't know
Yeah.
really the details of it,
Yeah.
but they love to make much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
And they love to take something and just blow it up into this huge issue. And I'm just not having it. I'm not having it because even I'm not going to say that there aren't LGBTQIA people out there. There aren't some people who are bad actors or who are people who shouldn't be around kids, but it is no more, statistically no more than what you would see in the general population. So the point is, yeah, we need to, pick out people and make sure that there are certain people who aren't around kids. But just by simply distributing LGBTQIA content as a teacher to students, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's so funny, even, when I watched your review of my interview with Tim Pool, I was so happy about it. And I saw a couple of other reviews that were on the total opposite end of the spectrum, where, they were sort of picking and pulling things and taking them out of context, which, by the way, is why the only reason I agreed to do the Tim Pool show was because they told me that it was going to be live and unedited. I didn't want them to be able to take my words and just sort of split them in half and apply them to different things. But yeah, it was, again, just one of those trying to get you moments. And again, you can put out an example for me and I can say I don't agree with that, or I agree with that, but it doesn't reflect upon the entire community. And they're trying to take these small examples and reflect them upon the entire community, which, again, if we flip that and do that with, cis heteronormative culture, you could do the same exact thing. But I know that even though there are cisgender heterosexual pedophiles, that doesn't mean that every person who's cisgender and heterosexual is a pedophile or a groomer or a bad person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's sort of, I don't know, I was kind of gonna maybe ask you about, because I don't know, I think that you did such a good job in that debate. I was gonna sort of ask you if you think, I don't know, if you think debates in general are productive. And I think definitely in your case it was, because, I think part of what maybe a Tim Pool audience is looking for is kind of like vibe, they're kind of looking for who's more confident and stuff like that. So I think that could kind of be effective. But also, like, something that I was thinking when I was watching that debate too, is just that, like, people like this who get really wrapped up in stuff like this, they just seem like they're not fun. Like, a drag performance in a drag show when you go is obviously fun and supposed to be fun.
Fine.
Yeah. And when they're going into these sort of, it just seems almost like a stereotype of an old timey, not very fun, like a wet blanket kind of thing. But actually, I was gonna ask you this also. The other, you don't have to go into details about like specific other people or anything, but like, you have a conservative drag queen, I guess, as Tim Pool's maybe on Tim Pool's side in the debate or whatever. Not to call anybody out specifically, but what do you think's going on there? Why would there be a socially conservative drag queen?
It's really hard to say. I've been trying to wrap my head around it myself, and I can only boil it down to ignorance. And frankly, this person just didn't seem very smart to me. And I don't mean that to be offensive, but they just didn't have any sort of actual arguments. They just had, well, this is what I think. And they're the kind of person that states opinion as fact without having anything to back it up. And I was able to, I didn't even mean to steamroll her, but I did, just because she didn't really have anything to talk about. So I said, well, I'm going to be the one talking most of the time then, which I also felt like I had to do because, again, it was 2 against 1. But I really don't know what's going on in her head. She has this viewpoint that drag is specifically and exclusively adult content. And, the overall theme of the show that I did, it was drag culture and drag queen story hour. So we talked a lot about drag queen story hour. But, people like her ask, well, why does a drag queen want to read to kids? Well, I don't know. Why does a librarian want to read to kids? Why does a parent want to read to kids? Kids are curious beings, and, they're fun and they're whimsical and they're imaginative. And I think the idea of a drag performer reading to kids, it's kind of like clowning in a sense. We're not banning clowns from interacting with kids. But part of it is, bringing joy to kids, but also bringing an educational aspect and also bringing an inclusive aspect. I did Drag Queen Story Hour a couple of times, and it was a really awesome experience. It was cool, with both the kids and the parents, just being able to have that fun experience. And I can tell you, Drag Queen Story Hour, a lot different than doing a performance at the club, but they like to pretend that it's the same thing. And again, what they'll do is they'll take, the one or two clips of a drag queen who maybe is doing some dance moves that they shouldn't be doing around kids, and again, portraying that as, well, this is what Drag Queen Story Hour is, when simply that's not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like fun to me. I mean, it seems like pure fun. But yeah, they're really stuck on this. I mean, I'm sort of thinking, like, if we were to think about this, you tell me what you think about this. A lot of this stuff, if you think about it in terms of like real politics, you have like here's just a couple examples. Like, you have the abortion bans in these states, right? And I was sort of looking at stats about that. And as a policy, like, if we're just looking at it as a pure policy, it's a failure. It's a total failure. I mean, you're actually not, like, it looks like statistically so far, you're not even reducing abortions. People are going to other states using pills, stuff like that, right? And for those people who have like really difficult, like heartbreaking pregnancy problems, you're causing like massive problems for them, like that. So this is a failure, and I don't know how these people making these laws didn't know that this was going to be a failure. Then you have other stuff, like, this is just like a fun example, like the porn bans. Some states are banning, they're requiring ID laws for internet porn, right? And what they found, this is kind of funny, they found that VPN, which basically like redirects your internet IP address traffic or whatever, searches for VPNs went way up when they started doing this, So, and you have to know, if you're a lawmaker, you have to know that this is kind of gonna fail. And I almost get the impression that a lot of this kind of these laws and this what they're doing is partly, I mean, you tell me, is partly to avoid like the serious economic stuff that you're talking about, like housing and all this stuff. Do you get that? Do you get that impression?
100%. In fact, when I think about, okay, so when I started running for Congress in 2019, I've effectively been running for 5 years now. This is my third time running. One of the things that I hate is that every single year, I keep finding myself, excuse me, I keep finding myself saying, this is the worst year in history for anti-LGBTQIA legislation. 2021, this is the worst year in history for anti-LGBTQIA legislation. Same in 2022, same in 2023. There's been more than 6,000 anti-LGBTQIA bills moving across the US, and I firmly believe that it is a distraction from issues that actually matter, issues of economic equity. And these are issues that particularly the Republican Party doesn't want to have to address. So what they do is they will pick a villain. And then, the villain right now happens to be LGBTQIA people, specifically trans people, and also drag performers. And, they use this as the scapegoat and as this villain that must be defeated in order for us to have a moral nation, in order for us to have, just a morality, that kind of thing. And so it completely takes the focus off of things that actually matter. The fact that people can't afford gas right now, they can't afford eggs and milk, they can't afford housing, healthcare, education. But let's take time to go after drag shows. Like,
right.
Come on. And the sad thing is, people are falling for it. So many people are falling for it. And it just sucks that a marginalized community has to become even more marginalized just for this purpose. And it just sucks, especially because LGBTQIA people are often on the receiving end of economic inequity. As I mentioned earlier, more difficulty finding employment, finding housing, getting healthcare, and these things, again, should be guaranteed to everybody. And instead, you have the Republican Party saying, we've got to eliminate drag. Like, really? That's number one on the agenda right now? We gotta not let trans people use the bathroom or play sports. Like, come on. It's a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a joke because it actually is really
Right.
impacting LGBTQIA people, but it's a joke that this is something that folks are supposed to be concerned about when there are a dozen other things that actually really impact the quality of life of everybody living in this nation that they aren't addressing.
Yes. So yeah, it definitely affects people, but there's definitely an element of cynical political trickery to it too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, before I let you go, because I know you got a lot going on. You got a lot going on. Like, let's be real. You got a lot going on. But I wanted to. I don't know if I should even say this because I don't want to draw too much attention to it. But you do this move that I really like. It's sort of like a little physicality when I was watching this Tim Pool thing that I noticed that I was like, I'm gonna start doing that, which is you'll make a point, and I hope this doesn't affect you doing this. You'll make a point and then you just kind of nod. Do you notice that you do that? You kind of like nod. You'll be like,
I had no idea.
No.
I had no idea. Now, thanks.
I know. I totally ruined it. But here's. I don't think that you're trying to I don't think that it's like a intimidation thing or some kind of a tactic. I think it's almost like a physical thing of like, yeah, look, I know what I'm saying is correct. So
right?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, exactly. So please keep doing that. I'm gonna start doing that when I talk to people. But thank you so much for doing this, and I hope you keep winning, and I hope LA gets better. I hope you are able to help make LA better, and hopefully maybe the whole country and maybe the world better.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Can I give my campaign a quick little shout out?
Oh, of course. See, I forget this stuff. Do it.
No worries. So thanks for listening, everybody. Again, my name is Maebe. I'm a drag performer. I'm also a trans non-binary person. There has never been a trans person federally elected to the U.S. government. And again, in a time where there are more than 500,000 anti-LGBTQIA bills, specifically anti-trans bills, but there are no trans people at the table, it's messed up. It's past time that we have a representative who is trans, but as I always say, don't vote for me because I'm a trans person. Don't vote for me because I'm a drag performer. Vote for me because you want to see things like universal health care, housing for all, environmental justice, education for all, racial justice, LGBTQIA rights, reproductive rights, workers' rights. These are all things that I support. We came in second place out of 9 candidates last year. I ended up getting more than 60,000 votes, and it's an open seat this year. So I was previously challenging Adam Schiff from the left. It's an open seat this year. And again, since we came in second place out of 9, we have a really great chance of actually winning and going to Washington. Also, I would love to do just a little fundraising pitch. We are totally grassroots, corporate free, totally people powered. We have raised a lot more money this year than we did last year, and even more money than the year before, but it takes a lot of coins to run for Congress, and we're trying to get billboards, we're trying to do TV ads this year. So if anybody has anything to spare, please make a donation through my website.
Hell yeah, Maebe. It was so great to talk to you. Have a good rest of the day. Let's talk again soon.
Thanks so much. Please have me back.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh man, that was great. That was great. What a cool person. Out there doing it. Out there doing it. Yeah, go check out maybe a girl's website and everything. Maybe we'll take a few Discords. Let's take a few. Oh, it's Stevie. Stevie, are you there? If you want to get into the Discord, go, do it. The link is in the description. Stevie.
Oh, hey, what's up? You hear me?
Stevie, what's up?
You hear me, Ram?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, so you've been to some drag shows, huh?
I've been to a few drag shows, yeah.
Have you ever performed in any?
Oh, no, I don't know. See, we were talking about what's going on in the background? Why do I sound like
hold
that?
on. Let me turn my fan off.
Okay, are you putting me through
Is that better?
Okay, yeah. Oh boy, I sound terrible. I sound unusually stupid on your whatever you're listening to back there.
Hey, Chris,
It sounds normal.
Okay. I've never. We were talking about the confidence thing. I don't know if I have that confidence level.
I never performed in one, but like back in high school, we did this thing where like it's during homecoming where like dudes would dress up like chicks and chicks would dress up like the opposite. Do you ever do one of those or?
I don't think I've ever done it. How did
I'm
you?
wondering if like
Go ahead.
they basically like this chick comes up to me, she's like, "Hey Stevie, you want to like do the Miss Bonfire thing?" And I'm like, I'm trying to pull it off all cool. I'm like, yeah, you know, I guess or something. But down, I'm like, dude, I get to dress up like a chick and get away with it? Sweet.
This was you in high school, Stevie?
Yeah.
What kind of? Because
like-
we've talked to you before, Stevie. What kind of? Because you seem like kind of what we call like a cool guy. Were you like a cool guy? And why do I sound so stupid on whatever you're listening to?
Nah, you sound completely normal.
Okay.
I played sports and worked out,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
So like I mean, I went to like a small school where like everybody knew everybody, so it wasn't hard to like get along with people,
Okay.
I guess. But...
All right. Well, you seem.
So yeah.
You seem pretty relatable and like a nice guy, but hold on, let's take a different call. Caroline, are you there? Because Stevie was just, I feel like he's just showing off at that point. He's like, you know, he was what we call the big man on campus, and he's trying to show off. So.
Oh.
No, just kidding. We like Stevie. Caroline, are you there?
Oh my God, yes.
Caroline, what up?
What's up? I'm in the car with my band. We're driving back from our first tour.
You're driving back with your band.
Yes, we're driving back from Pittsburgh to North Carolina.
What's your band? Do you want to plug your band?
Yes. Actually, last time I talked to you, I talked about another band, but this is a different band.
Okay.
This is a band called Say Your Blair.
I got a band name idea for you. How about this one? You'll be able to hear this.
A crystal flute.
What do you think of that for a band name?
For what?
What do you think?
Oh wait, are you playing the soundboard?
A crystal flute.
I can't. I can only hear the Discord audio.
Oh God. Okay. What do you think about a crystal flute for a band name?
Absolutely. Perfect.
What's this band called again, Caroline?
Say Your Blair.
Say your what?
Blair's like Say Your Prayers, except the girl who writes all the music, her name is Blair.
Okay, Say Your Blairs. Okay, very clever, very clever. And what kind of music are we doing here?
It's like emo, screamo, kind of like hardcore elements, heavy shit.
Okay, well, real quick, do you want to tell us anything weird that has happened on this tour?
Oh my God. We were on our way out of Atlanta, and so we were ass, and this dude like starts banging on the window asking us for a lighter, and then we just drove away. And as we're driving away, there's another gas station where there's a fucking just whole car on fire, just in the middle of the gas station.
Oh my God. All right. Well, it sounds like you're having a good time, Caroline. Talk to you later. Let's go Feeney. We'll take a few quick discords. Mr. Feeney, are you there?
Hello.
Feeney, what up?
Dead.
Hey, how are you?
Feeney, what's going on?
Not much. Just enjoying a salad. Caught the tail end of that conversation.
Pretty cool. Maybe a girl seems pretty cool to me. What do you think?
Yeah. Dunking real hard on Timmy Pool.
A crystal flute.
You love to see it.
We love to see it. Well, what's going on, Feeney? You got anything to tell us?
What's going on? There's a meteor shower tonight. I'm going up into the mountains with some friends to camp out and stare at the sky where all things shoot across the sky. So,
are you guys going to be under the influence during this?
Yeah, there will be influences.
Many influences.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you expect to get out of this experience? You think you're going to have some kind of a spiritual thing, or what's going on?
I mean, you can't go expecting those things, but
right.
You could say my heart's always open to it.
Oh, Mr. Feeney, I love to hear it. Mr. Feeney, you're a very You're a very spiritual guy. I think that's just me, but that's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, I like to tell people that when I meet them.
Like
just
the first thing. That's the first thing you tell them. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
It makes them more comfortable if you do that.
It makes them more comfortable when that's the first thing you say, and you're staring unblinkingly directly in their eyes, and you say that.
Exactly.
All right. Well, anything else, Feeney?
Yeah. You and everybody in chat, have a good weekend.
Oh, thanks, Feeney. Love ya.
See you.
Bye-bye. Good guy there. Good guy, Mr. Feeney. We'll take a few more. Who should we talk to? Nine Life, are you there? Nine Life.
A crystal dead.
Nine Life, are you there?
Hello? Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
For one day.
I'm on the thing. Oh, shit.
You're here. Nine Life, you are live.
Okay, cool. I just want to say I like The Last Guess.
Oh, thanks.
You know, I really enjoy the show. I watch you like every other day when you post.
Oh my God, thanks, Nine.
I'm recording on like a tape recorder right now.
Okay.
That was the only mic I could find.
Okay. So you're doing this in some
it's
kind.
like recording.
You're doing this in some kind of a Steve Albini analog kind of way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to go for.
You wanted to keep the masters on this.
Yeah, no, I got those.
Okay.
Here, hold on. Let me play it for a second.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, no, I got those. Here, let me play it for a sec. Let me see. Yeah, no, I got those.
Wow.
So it's like a tape looper.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the only interesting thing I have to say.
Oh my God, amazing. All right, well, Nine.
Yeah, have a good show.
Thanks, Nine Life. Talk to you later. That was pretty cool. He's doing some like Wolf Eyes stuff with the tapes. Should we take a few more? Who should we talk to? Okay, this will be the last one. Rosie, are you there? Is it Rosie? Or Rosizzy? Rosizzy, are you there?
Oh, they make me vomit.
Wipe your ass. Wipe your ass with them.
Okay. Okay, maybe we'll try one last one. Tina Giovanna, are you there? Tina Giovanna?
What? They make me vomit.
These people who don't...
How's it going?
Oh, are you there?
I am.
Okay, hold on. I'll read a super chat. More live streams. Thanks for all the laughter and positivity you have brought to us. Oh my God. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you so much. So nice of you to say. Tina, what is going on?
You're about to be
not much. Just got off work, so I'm home, relaxing, putting together a Lego set, and enjoying the stream.
What kind of Lego set we putting together here?
Currently, I am working on the new Spider-Man set that just dropped.
Ooh.
I think it's from the No Way Home movie, or whatever that one was.
They should do other movies. It's usually like superhero movies or Ghostbusters or whatever for these Lego sets. Why don't they do
and loads of Star Wars.
They should do a Tar one. You know that movie Tar? They should do a Tar.
Oh, that would be absolutely fantastic. We could like have the whole like we could have the whole sexual harassment, sequence.
Yep.
Put into bricks. That would be absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Maybe a like an Uncut Gems Lego set.
Oh, I would actually kill for that. It's like one of my favorite movies.
All right, I love it. So what's going on? Have you swallowed any of these Legos? Have you stepped on any of them? What's going on?
Actually, my favorite. I like the little ones. They generally tend to taste the best, like the little 1x1 flat.
Yeah, it's like a little appetizer before you.
Yeah, and they give you a nice scratchy feeling going down the throat.
Right. You want to start off with like just a little scratch, or you get a little scratch, and then you move on to the bigger pieces. Like maybe you eat.
Oh yeah,
like,
you gotta work your way up. You don't just straight into a base plate or something. You gotta work your way.
Exactly. Well, pretty good advice on Legos there. Thank you so much, Tina. Maybe put a picture when you complete this thing, okay?
Oh, for sure.
All right. Talk to you later. All right. So we're waiting for that Tar Lego set to come out. Can't wait. Can't wait for it. Hope you guys like this. It was really good to talk to Maebe, and I was talking to her about possibly doing a live show. So I don't know if you guys are interested in that. Let me know. Hit me up. And have a good
Wipe your ass.
have a good weekend. We look at the weekend and we say
You're about to be value-tained. You're about to be value-tained.
So I hope you guys are all value-tained this weekend. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.